Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below, the direct purchase and pricing question line for your questions about the price of this or any watch you see here on Watchbox Reviews, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing the hottest watch of 2007. Made in 2007 in 300 pieces, this is the yellow gold launch model of the Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometre Chronograph. 42 millimeters in yellow gold. The watch is an impressive technological and artistic tour de force. 13.6 millimeters thick and, as you can see, 50.2 millimeters from lug to lug with a spacing of 21 millimeters between the lugs. Now we'll throw this watch on the wrist real quick. I owned this watch in white gold for years, identically sized and shaped. It was a comfortable companion for my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and for a long time it was both my grail watch and my favorite watch. I enjoyed my time with the Duometre, and I'm convinced as to the efficacy of its underlying mechanical theory. The idea that you could have chronometer grade performance with no loss of power reserve, amplitude, or accuracy, even when the chronograph was in action. We'll talk about how that's possible. I can recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 14.5 centimeters circumference. Now, speaking of the accessories, JLC straps are hit or miss, but it equipped the Duometre with one of its best. There's a lot of leather here. Medium rectangular scale alligator leather, semi-gloss, bolstered down the center. You can see there's a monotone stitch and sheer sides showing the layers of construction. There's calfskin on the underside, and it is a new JLC factory strap. Later on, the Duometre family, in an attempt to hit price points, would be equipped with pin buckles. This watch features a full double deployant yellow gold clasp, as it should be, for security against accidental droppage while donning or removing at bedside in the morning and at night. Now, I mentioned artistry externally, and it has it. As you can see, the lugs themselves are welded onto the case, and the welding onto the case includes quite a bit of finishing to remove evidence of that welded joint. You can see how the lug flanks are black polished and the case flank is satin finished, and to create that sharp break between them with no evidence of lumpy weld, that's hard enough. To double finish the case, that's next level. And yes, JLC makes both its cases and its movements. Polished case back, polished lip to the bezel. You'll note there's a narrow vertical portion to the bezel and then a conical portion that slopes on the top. And the lug hoods themselves are of high polish. The mono pusher is rectangular, and you can see the crown is extravagant as it features a media blasted center with polished and relieved border and JL logo. And then you can see that there's a double knurling on its flank. It looks good and it feels as good as it looks. Of course, winding involves turning the crown in two directions. Two barrels, one winds while the other ratchets, and you use the single crown to energize both of them. Turn it back to the dial side. This watch initially caused me some mixed emotions. I loved the underlying mechanism, but I wasn't down with the yellow gold. Over time, I've fallen in love with this watch because of its dial. A lovely, pebbly grained eggshell off-white. This creamy dial won my heart. Now you can see there is both a chronograph and a time-telling function. Center seconds for both. The yellow gold hands, even the power reserve, those are the time-telling functions. That yellow gold hand at center tells time. So it's a rare chronograph that also has regular running center seconds. Now you have a chronograph mono counter over at, well, we'll call it 2 o'clock, and it has a tens of minutes hand, an hour hand superimposed, and then if you get real close, down at the bottom there is a single digit minutes. So you have hours, tens of minutes, single digit minutes, you have chronograph seconds on the center, and then you have chronograph sixths of seconds. And as you can see, two 50-hour power reserves. As I wind in opposite directions, those two needles for the two 50-hour reserves move down to fully wound. Now when I stop the watch and I reset, well, first let's take a look. You can see easily the hours, minutes, seconds, and sixths of seconds, and then I hold it down to reset, and everything returns to the neutral position. The color of this dial is to die for. Note JLC did not cheap out, using a yellow gold individual numbering plate as well as applique yellow gold quarter Arabics on the time of day dial. Roll it all over, caliber 380, the best JLC has. Manual wind, two 50-hour power reserves, one for the complication, one for the time, 49 joules, and as you can see, a balance beaten away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it is a free-sprung balance that is able to shake off bumps and concussions on the wrist. Now there is a column wheel system, and it is a crisp one for actuating the mono pusher. You could see the recentering hammers as they fall and zero out the watch at center. You should also appreciate the fact that though this is a dress watch, 50 meters water resistant. Now about the spec, everything is hand finished. JLC generally only hand finishes watches priced far north of $100,000, but the Duometre, designed to pioneer a new mechanical principle, was a flagship piece by virtue of its innovation. So though it wasn't anywhere near $100,000 new, you have the highest level of mirrored anglage. You have Côte de Soleil sunburst exploding out from an imaginary origin point at the center of the balance. You could see the engine-turned perlage on the base plate, and the same anglage executed on the bridges is executed in every jewel and screw countersink. You have both black polished screws and fired blued screws on this movement, and of course the depth of the movement is second to none, as this movement was inspired by a pocket watch found in JLC's Heritage Gallery. That was a chronometer-grade minute repeater, and the idea, including the architecture of the twin barrels and two separate drivetrains with a single balance and a single escapement switching them like a traffic cop, that whole idea of parallel independent drivetrains was adopted from a Victorin Piguet, a Bausch, improved into a JLC minute repeating chronometer that was in the company museum, and this wristwatch is the realization of that 1880s concept in a modern day, everyday wearable wrist instrument. Of course, it went through the master 1000 hours control test of water resistance, durability, power reserve, and chronometry, with two power reserve indicators, two separate movements, two separate barrels, and really two separate functions. It's a wonder the watch is only 42 millimeters in diameter, and I can also tell you, having owned the white gold version, I have never owned a more accurate mechanical watch. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for full pricing and purchase details of this Duometre.